Okay folks, Captain Paul here, and today we're going to talk about America's Great Loop. And why do I want to talk about that? Well, I want to do this for mostly, I got a lot of Patreons getting ready to do the loop. And then for you first timers watching the videos here, my name is Captain Paul. I'm aboard this 2004 main ship. Lately, for a side gig, I help people buy and sell boats. So this one, I'm sitting at the helm of this one, and it's actually for sale, 2004 main ship. But I want to talk today about America's Great Loop and my adventure of the Great Loop. And I want to break this down into about a 10 series videos, and I'll release these on Saturday morning, but Patreons will get them. They'll be able to watch them anytime and from the time I release them on. And anyway, I want to talk about like first, this getting ready for America's Great Loop. Here we are on probably one of the most popular looping boats on the market, and it's the main ship. This is the 400. The 3900 is probably the most, because the 400 is a little more expensive. But I want to talk about my whole mindset of what got me going on the loop, and then we're going to break it down into like the Gulf Coast, Florida, the Carolinas, up to Georgetown, and then we'll talk about the Chesapeake, the Dismal Swamp, going into the river. I'll talk about the route that I did and the route that I know now that I've completed the loop actually twice now. And my first one, it was an experience that I'll never forget. But I was scared. I was scared shitless, if you want to know the absolute truth. But getting ready for America's Great Loop is, that's a whole nother beast in itself, because on Loop Princess, which is it was a 36-foot trawler. I think everybody thinks, in the range of the boat that they're going to loop on, what is the best size boat to loop on. And this again is from my experience and what happened to me. We started the loop in a 36-foot boat, which is about 40 foot overall. And then we ended it in a boat that was 50 foot overall, and there was a big difference in that. So the first thing you need to do when you're doing America's Great Loop is find that boat, and first thing you need to do is find out what kind of budget you have. Then after you've created a budget and you know what the budget is, go ahead and start looking for your boat. Because if you have a $50,000 budget, all-in budget to do America's Great Loop, I'm going to tell you right now to probably save your money and think of something else to do, because it's just not enough money. There are people, you can do the loop on 50 grand, but that's after you bought your boat. I'm talking all-in budget of actually buying the boat and then doing America's Great Loop. And I think a realistic budget for something like that, $150,000, because you're probably going to spend, if you want to be like Weldon, a couple weeks ago he picked up that single screw Regency for $50,000, and that's pretty much a turnkey boat, AIS, autopilot. Doesn't have a generator, but believe it or not, you don't use the generator on America's Great Loop, and we'll talk about that later, because you're staying in those 70-degree latitudes. If it's 70 degrees out, you're moving on to the next body of water where it is 70 degrees, so it's 70 to 80 degrees the entire time you're doing the loop. On between both of my boats that I completed the loop on, I probably had less than 25 hours of loop time. And then for you guys that are educated, you know that you can get away with like solar powers. There's certain ways you can use solar power as a generator, and then just using a simple 2200 watt Honda generator, I can run the air conditioners on just about any boat, especially a newer boat with a newer AC unit. So even if you guys are buying the older boats and you buy a newer AC unit, you can run that off a 2200 watt Honda generator. So that's, I'm just throwing that out there as you're thinking about doing the loop, because the first thing we need to do is we need to sit down with a budget, figure out how much money we can spend, boat all in. And like I said, if your all-in budget's $150,000, you got about $100,000 to get your boat and get it ready to do America's Great Loop. For me, the whole experience of getting the boat ready to do America's Great Loop was a task in itself, and I think it can get overwhelming at times. I've got Steve in the $1 Million Bayliner right now getting ready for the loop. I've got Harold getting ready for. I don't know if they're going to go loop, but they're talking about looping again. And you know, I probably got 3 or 4 of you guys that are within the next year or two are going to start the loop, and you're actually starting on your boat now. What I did was I came from Vegas. I lost my job to COVID. I came from Vegas. I bought the boat, and that boat was my full-time job basically. So was getting it ready, and that took me about 3 months working on it, 10 hours a day in a boatyard. Getting it ready. Now I had some issues with the boat that I had to deal with, like stripping the entire bottom by hand. Just that project alone took over a month, and I don't recommend that for anybody. So any budget-minded guys that are thinking, you know, I want to save money on the boat, and you want to do the bottom, I learned a big lesson on that one. I probably wouldn't have done the bottom the way I did it. I would have just thrown some paint on there and been done with it, and did the loop. Did a lot of the other stuff that I did, but not that project. So anyway, and the video really here is this, especially this intro video into this, is telling you where my mindset was at. So I took 90 days, basically 3 months on the hard, and then for the season to start, so we started in 2021, April 15, 2021, and we got on the boat probably, I think it was right after the hurricane. Big hurricane down there in the Gulf Coast, so we were limited on what we could do in the yards we could get into, and that kind of screwed me over just a little bit. So we picked it up in like October, and then I worked on it all of the rest of October, November, December, and then we put it back in the water, I believe, just before the first of the year, and then we had it in the water until April 15th, and we were doing on projects like adding the solar panels, the engines, getting the generator all straightened up, get a new air conditioner and all that stuff. And it was an immense amount of work, canvas work. Have painted the decks like 2 or 3 times because we didn't like the colors, just stuff like that. And I remember now vividly. I would look back at it, and it was like, we're gonna leave, you know, in February, we're gonna leave in March, we're gonna leave, and we just kept procrastinating every time. And it was just, you know, I was learning the boat, I was working on the boat, and we kept just saying, hey, we're not, we really never got, you know, it was like that mindset of saying, hey, we're gonna leave, we're gonna go do this and get this done. It was hard. It was hard to actually leave the dock that first time and say, hey, we're gonna go do this. And it was probably one of the hardest challenges of my life, you know, and I'm sitting there and I'm scared shitless. I've never taken a boat out in the ocean like this, even though I do have some West Coast boating experience out there in the Gulf Coast. I had my shrimp boat for years, but we would just shrimp bays. So I never, you know, I knew I had right away when I'm leaving, because we left from Lulu's at Gulf Shores, Alabama. And I knew that within the next couple of weeks I had to do that overnight crossing, or there's a couple different routes, and we'll talk about that in the later videos, because this again is just an intro into America's Great Loop and where my mind was at. But I was thinking about that. I'm thinking, hey, you know, I've got to go do this crossing, and you know, I was scared. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was devastated, because that's probably what they say one of the most hardest parts about the loop is that crossing from Carabel over to Clearwater. And you know, I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how to have the boat. You know, is the boat gonna run? Is blah blah blah. It was just a massive amount of information and things that had to be done, and I was nervous. And the next video, I'm going to tell you, you know, the mistakes, because did I make any mistakes on America's? I made a mistake every single day. I don't believe, you know, you could take my game plan that I started with and just throw it out the window. I didn't. That's not the game plan that I finished the loop with. Is the one I started with. I'll tell you that right now, because Bev is a really organized, you know, we're going to do this on this day, stay at this marina and do this, you know, all spreadsheeted out and all that stuff. It just didn't work for us. You know, weather is a factor. If the boat, we didn't have any breakdowns on the boat, so that was not a factor for us, but it's something you've got to think about, you know what I'm saying? Fuel, everything has to be thought about. And where you're going to get fuel, where you're going to stay the night, are you going to anchor? We built the boat to do a lot of anchoring, And in the end, we hardly anchored. We used a lot of mooring balls is what we did. But we had Daisy, we had the dog with us, and Bev she just liked the comfort of being at that marina, of being somewhere safe, not relying on that anchor, even though the anchor, again, I'll get to this later on in the video, because as we got more comfortable, we did more anchoring, and we said, wow, why didn't we do more of this on the loop? And it was just because nerves, and you don't trust your tackle, you don't trust your ground tackle. What I mean by that is your chain, your anchor, and all that stuff. But as we got better and better, we got more faith, and we just got better at everything. And then we actually loved anchoring, and we'll talk about that in some of these later videos, especially as we get on the river system, because we did do a lot of anchoring over there. And another disadvantage, and we'll talk about that in some later videos, of what happened when we switch boats and we go from basically a 40-foot boat to a 50-foot boat, because that did become an issue, and there was some marinas that we couldn't get in because of that. And again, I'll talk about that later on, especially as we got up to the Great Lakes is where that really started to play and get an effect. Anyway, I hope your Patreons are going to enjoy this video and this series, this 10 video series. After I get done with this series, I'm going to release these on Saturdays to the public. For you guys will get them right away, and enjoy them and have them on record. But I'm going to do the Bahamas, because what happened, that was a different trip. After we finished the loop, we did end up going to the Bahamas, taking Southern Estate, my 50-foot trawler, over to the Bahamas for a month or two. And we'll talk about that, the preparation of getting ready for the Bahamas, and then what we actually, what we experienced in the Bahamas and stuff like that. Because especially for you beginner boaters, I think we all have this big idea and this big plan of doing like America's Great Loop, or this big plan of doing the Bahamas or the Keys or anything like that. And now that I've done them all several times, it is much easier, and I want to share that knowledge with you guys on what happened for me. Anyway, peace out. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Share it with your friends. You need any help with boats? You got any questions about America's Great Loop? You got anything that you need any help with when it comes to boating on these 40 to 60-foot trawler, or let's say 35 to 65-foot, 70-foot trawlers? Man, hit me up. I have an open line. You can text me, you can email me, or just leave a comment down below, and I'll get back to you as quick as I can. Anyway, peace out, and thank you guys so much, and I look forward to the next video when I actually talk about leaving on America's Great Loop. Anyway, thank you guys. Bye.